Hi, everybody. Welcome. Welcome, Scranton. Hi, Scranton. Why are we all gathered here today? The answer is we should not have to be gathered. On behalf of the newly created Pennsylvania Coalition for Trans Youth and TAKE, Transgender Advocates Knowledgeable Empowering, we are hosting a rally here today to support our defense of transgender youth and their families from the hate, bigotry, rhetoric, and discrimination brought on by our legislators, hate groups, etc. During the COVID-19 pandemic, it has already taken the lives of 27,675 Pennsylvanians, which is increased now, and caused over 1.1 million job losses in PA. We supporters of equality want to show up and say, don't target our trans rights. Do your job and focus on the families in need. What was that again? Don't focus on trans rights. Again, today, gathered together in solidarity, we are all showing our support for trans and non-binary people, our allies, and those who love us, our legislators. Again, do your job and back up of targeting vulnerable kids in school. Today, we are sending a message loud and clear. Transgender youth are welcome in Pennsylvania. Say that with me. Transgender youth are welcome in Pennsylvania. Again, transgender youth are welcome in Pennsylvania. Trans rights are human rights. Trans rights are human rights. Human rights are trans rights. I want to introduce now the co-founder. By the way, I am Janelle Foster, one of the co-founders of the Coalition for Trans Youth. The other co-founder is Day Cope. I want to introduce her now. Yes, Day is currently the director of civic engagement for TAKE, a trans youth advocacy organization. She's been a gender justice advocate for nearly a decade now in PA and around the country. She's the co-founder of the PA Coalition for Trans Youth. Welcome, Day.
Hi, everyone. Can y'all hear me all right? Yeah. All right. Thank you so much for coming out today on this beautiful, sunny Saturday to support trans youth, to support equality in schools. It's really important, more now than ever. I also want to say a quick thank you to Mayor Paige Cognetti for her support with this event. Thank you. She made sure, if you see behind you, that the pride flag is flying over City Hall in Scranton today. That really shows that the city of Scranton officially supports queer and trans kids, which is really exciting. I know a lot of you actually from past events or just socially, but if I haven't gotten a chance to meet you before, as Janelle said, my name is Day Pope. I am a trans rights advocate with TAKE, an advocacy group, and I've done some work with a few other organizations over the years. In a lot of ways, I know I don't have to tell you all that we're living in strange and scary and uncertain times, right? We're in the middle of this COVID-19 pandemic that has already taken the lives of over 30,000 of our fellow Pennsylvanians. It's also made over 1 million Pennsylvanians lose their jobs. And so this is a time when a ton of people in our state are grieving, are hurting, and some legislators in our state are focused, instead of working on those issues, on attacking vulnerable trans youth. They're not focused on bringing back jobs. They're not focused on protecting us from the pandemic. They're focused on attacking youth, and it's just shameful. This anti-trans campaign isn't, by the way, responding to a real issue that Pennsylvanians are facing or reporting in schools. It's copy and pasted wording from extremist think tanks outside of Pennsylvania that has been introduced in over 38 other states in our union, including Arkansas and Texas. What I find particularly painful and heartbreaking about this attack is that We know that the wounds inflicted on teens and kids when they're young by hateful messages, by abuse, by harassment, don't just hurt them right now. The wounds that are inflicted on young people can often last years, can often last a lifetime. At 29 years old, I myself am still unpacking and hurting and healing from wounds that were inflicted on me as a gender nonconforming kid by my peers, by adults who didn't do anything, and by the media and politicians that sent the message loud and clear when I was growing up that kids like me weren't worthy of love and protection. What's happening right now here in Pennsylvania and in so many other states around the country is a campaign of hate that's traumatizing young people. That's really what we're up against right now. Now the bullies and the harassers that trans and queer kids are facing aren't just their peers, they're well organized and funded adult and hate groups across the country. I see some youth in the crowd, some students in the crowd, and I'm really so grateful that you came out today. You most of all are proving to the rest of us that acceptance and equality are things that are being led by the youth. But for those of us who maybe aren't in school anymore, maybe a few years older, I just want you to imagine with me for a second being 6 years old, being 11 years old right now, being 16 years old, and you're just trying to go to school. You're just excited to see your friends at lunch. You're just hoping that you remembered to turn in your homework on time, right? And suddenly you're staring down the barrel of hundreds of angry adults, well-funded adults, who are telling you that you're wrong and you're bad and you don't deserve to participate in school like everybody else. Can you imagine being a young person right now in school, facing that kind of hatred and pressure every single day, when you're just trying to do your thing and be a kid and go to school and figure yourself out? Some Pennsylvania lawmakers are trying to pass legislation right now that keeps trans kids from participating fully in school activities. Fact, conversion therapy, which isn't a real health treatment, is still legal in the state of Pennsylvania. Fact, discrimination in schools and conversion therapy, in air quotes, have been proven time and time again to increase self-harm and suicide in queer and trans kids and teens who already face a higher risk of self-harm or suicide because of the abuse and the harassment that they face. What we're talking about right now is a crisis in which the lives of kids and teens in Pennsylvania are at stake. It is quite literally life or death. And some of the people, the Pennsylvania lawmakers who have been entrusted with representing all of us in the legislature, are fanning the flames instead of keeping kids safe. Pennsylvanians don't want to be drawn into these culture wars. We're standing up today and telling legislators and other decision makers, do your job, get the pandemic under control, bring back jobs, stop attacking kids. It's pretty simple, right? Schools are for education, not for discrimination. This should be easy stuff. Trans youth belong here in Pennsylvania and everywhere else. And there's a growing coalition of people, just like all of us today, across the Commonwealth, parents, students, teachers, business owners, neighbors, trans folks, and our allies, who are standing up and saying, we're not going to let Pennsylvania go the way of Arkansas or Texas. We're not going to codify hatred into law in our state. That's right. We're going to win this fight together, and all of you showing up today was the first step. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Day. And as Day said, education is not discrimination. Let's all say that a few times. Education is not discrimination. Education is not discrimination. Thank you, Day. We're going to get into the speaker segment right now, and our first speaker is Jackie Baker. Jackie Baker is from Susquehanna County here in Pennsylvania, and she is a candidate for Senate of Pennsylvania Senatorial District 23. Jackie was born and raised in Pennsylvania and is a former educator with a bachelor's and master's degree in education. Jackie is also an activist, advocate, and an ally for the LGBTQ plus community. Jackie?
Good afternoon, and thank you all for being here today to support our trans youth. I'm Jackie Baker. I'm here because I believe that all Pennsylvanians deserve the right to live their lives as their authentic, true selves. And that each and every individual in our Commonwealth shall be free to live, learn, work, play, and love free of discrimination. As an educator, my top priority was to know each student as an individual and to create a warm, safe, and positive atmosphere in the classroom where all students would feel nurtured and supported. Unfortunately, sadly, and far too often, families of gender-expansive students have challenging and sometimes combative experiences with schools. Compared to the general population, gender-diverse kids face drastically increased rates of bullying, assault, depression, school dropout, drug abuse, self-harm, and suicide. A 2009 report from the Gay, Lesbian, and Straight Education Network says that nearly 90% of transgender youth surveyed had experienced verbal harassment at school because of their gender expression. 2/3 felt unsafe at school. More than half experienced physical harassment, and 1/4 experienced assault at school, a place for learning. These students are also more likely to skip school and significantly have lower grade point averages. But schools and teachers can make a big difference in the lives of kids by creating gender inclusive spaces where all kids can learn, grow, and thrive. Students will have a better chance of success if schools provide support, resources for gender identity and expression. Every teacher and every school has the legal and moral obligation to support all students in all aspects of their development and education. Teachers and schools have a duty to support and uplift our trans kids. They must affirm a truly gender inclusive climate in schools. They must make clear that everyone deserves respect, that bullying and harassment will not be tolerated, that every student has the right to go to school without facing harm or discrimination. Schools and teachers must articulate their commitment to support trans students and their families. They must work to build trust and respect for our trans kids so that they can grow, learn, and develop in a healthy space. And teachers and school personnel, if your school resists, request professional development to educate teachers, staff, and administrators about gender diversity and work proactively to create gender inclusive schools. When students and families and caring adults come together, we can create a safe, positive, nurturing, accepting place for our students to learn and where they can succeed. So let's make PA safe and compassionate place for all of our trans youth in schools and everywhere else Let's not discriminate. Let's educate. Thank you.
Thank you, Jackie. Our next speaker is Christian Chalutsky. Chalutsky? That's a hard to say. Christian is a queer activist who grew up in Susquehanna County, who has dedicated his career to building queer community power by helping elevate queer people to civil service positions in local government, building up local mental health and social support services, and helping to push local non-discrimination ordinances. A proud Penn Stater, Christian originally got his start in queer advocacy through Penn State Harrisburg's Capital Alliance Queer Student Organization, helping to raise visibility for queer student community, and hasn't looked back since. Please welcome Christian.
Thank you. And thank you everybody for... All right. Are we good? Okay. Thank you everybody for coming out today. In the words of renowned speechwriters Lady Gaga and Ariana Grande, I'd rather be dry, but at least I'm alive. So thank you for all coming out today. As Janelle said, my name is Christian, and I grew up just to the north of here in Susquehanna County, out in the country outside a very small town of about 10 houses. I did not live in that town. I lived in a field outside that town. When I realized that I was queer as a teenager, the emotion I remember most strongly from that day was a feeling of being completely and utterly alone. And it wasn't until college that I was finally able to meet and be mentored by other people who were living happy, healthy, openly queer lives. I was lucky that I was able to find that community and find support, but not everyone is that lucky. And we lose far too many queer youth before they get the chance to spread their wings and carve out a space where they can be safe, respected, and openly who they are. Jackie covered some of these. I'm going to offer some pretty grim statistics, not to discourage, but to help educate anyone who might be listening, who might not realize just how difficult it can be for queer youth to survive. Queer youth are almost 2 times more likely to be bullied in school or bullied online than non-queer youth. Queer youth are more than twice as likely to become homeless than non-queer youth. And queer youth are unfortunately 3 times more likely to attempt to end their lives than non-queer youth. It is really difficult for most queer kids to survive into adulthood. But there's another statistic that is really encouraging and offers all of us so much hope for the future. When queer youth are able to grow up with an accepting adult in their life, they are 8 times less likely to attempt suicide or develop major depression. There is a pathway into happy, healthy queer adulthood for these young queer people, and it involves support and acceptance. That support and acceptance is the perspective from which I'm speaking today. As a peer mentor at a queer mental health support group, I've seen firsthand the transformation of queer kids from severely depressed and bullied into vibrant, flourishing, happy individuals. And the catalyst for that incredible transformation is just one person or one group of people who accepted them exactly as they are. Mental and emotional support are critical to the survival and success of our queer youth. So as I wrap up, I would like to take this time to call on the state government of Pennsylvania to immediately implement 2 policies that will save queer kids' lives. First, I call on the legislature to either move House Bill 1825 out of the Education Committee to a full floor vote, or pass similar legislation to ensure that queer students have access to counseling services in school. This is critical and will save lives. I also call on the legislature to further amend and improve House Bill 1825 to require that school counselors be trained to handle the unique mental health struggles that queer students face on a daily basis. And second, I call on the Pennsylvania Department of Health to create and publicize a searchable database of queer-friendly mental health professionals so that queer kids and their families can quickly and easily find the mental health support that they need. Young queer people need us to stand up for them, and it is long overdue for the Pennsylvania State Legislature to take concrete actions that our queer youth can survive. I think Mother Nature agrees with us. Finally, to any queer youth who are watching this rally, especially any trans youth, I just want to say that if you're not lucky enough to be growing up in an accepting household, I may not understand your exact experience because we're all different, but I know what it's like to feel alone and to feel like nobody has your back. But when things get really rough, just remember that all these people here are out here fighting every single day so that you can live your true self, and we will not stop until that is a reality for every queer person in the state of Pennsylvania. So even though you might feel really alone, I want you to know that you are a valuable human being. And there is this team of queer people and allies out here fighting every single day to make sure you have the opportunity to live your honest self. Trans lives matter, queer lives matter.
Thank you, Kristen. And yes, trans lives do matter and real lives do matter. Our next speaker is Kara Kinsman. Kara Kinsman started her agricultural firm in Wilkes-Barre 30 years ago and was recently the architect for the new Wilkes-Barre High School, during which time she transitioned in 2018. Kiara has 3 amazing children and a very cute cat.
Thank you for reminding me.
She is a board member at the William Way LGBTQ Community Center in Philadelphia and also at the Rainbow Alliance in northeastern Pennsylvania. Kiara lives visibly as a transgender woman in both Wilkes-Barre and Philadelphia and is committed to advocating for gender expansiveness in all its expressions in her Pennsylvania community. Please welcome Kiara.
Good morning, everybody. Kara Kinsman, she, her, hers. And I guess if I was ever wondering if Northeastern Pennsylvanians are really hardy, this is the proof. So you're all so amazing to be here this morning with us all. I am an architect, and I started my firm in Wilkes-Barre, Pennsylvania 30 years ago. We're a 15-person firm, and I was recently the architect for the new Wilkes-Barre High School. I also live in Philadelphia, and I had a sense that I had a different gender outlook on life when I was 13 years old. That was 1971. And in 1971, I didn't know anybody else who was anything like me. I was socialized as a male, and I was actually a championship wrestler in high school, and I was also wearing women's clothing. So, you know, the only thing that occurred to me is that maybe I should be looking at a career in fashion design. I wasn't sure about that. But in any event, it was lonely. It was a lonely time. I heard the word transgender finally when I was 38 years old. And the first thing that occurred to me was, gosh, well, I guess that's me. And then I had a child who fell ill, and I didn't transition for another 18 years. When I finally did, it was in the middle of the new Wilkes-Barre High School project. And I can tell you that for the last 2 years of my life, I've walked onto a job site with 250 strong, burly construction guys in northeastern Pennsylvania, and I was never misgendered. And so this gives me a great deal of hope. And I was accepted for who I was. And I think that that is kind of an encouraging sign of the times. I guess that one of the things that encouraged me to get involved in LGBTQ plus nonprofit organizations was the notion that I never wanted to see another 13-year-old in Pennsylvania have to be as alone as I felt I was for so long. And I think that we're seeing a tremendous amount of progress. But at the same time, I'm clear that neither the Scranton School District or the Wilkes-Barre School District include sexual orientation and gender identity in their non-discrimination policies right now. And Wilkes-Barre School District had a trans architect. So I intend to get working on that. And I think that what Councilwoman Jessica Rothschild in Scranton, along with Mayor Paige Pognetti and the Scranton City Council, have done point of view of conversion therapy and passing the conversion therapy ordinance in Scranton is great leadership in northeastern Pennsylvania, and Wilkes-Barre needs to follow suit, because after all, Scranton and Wilkes-Barre are our two twin pole cities, really. I think that also we're blessed with a number of legislators from northeastern Pennsylvania, not least of which, of course, is our U.S. Senator Robert Casey, as well as U.S. Congressman Matt Cartwright, and down in Luzerne County, House Representatives Mike Carroll and Eddie Day Paczynski were incredibly supportive of LGBTQ rights. And I think that we need to get to Senator Lisa Baker, and we need to get to Representative Aaron Kaufman, and we need to get to our school districts. And I think that we need to be talking to our cities and our city council people about things like conversion therapy. Of course, Scranton, Wilkes-Barre, and Pittsburgh all have LGBTQ ordinances, and that's really wonderful for Northeastern PA. I think that Northeastern PA is so much more progressive place than it was when I was growing up here as a kid. And I think that we're making progress. I think we have a lot to be proud of. We're the fifth largest metro area in Pennsylvania. Nothing happens politically in this state without Northeastern Pennsylvania. Nothing good happens anyway. And so each and every one of us, I think, has a role to play. And since we're having a hard time pushing things through at the state level right now, we can certainly move at the local level. 67 cities in Pennsylvania have LGBTQ ordinances in place, covering 35% of Pennsylvanians. It's real progress. And so, as Dave Pope said, we need to make sure that we don't wind up looking like Arkansas or Texas, quite honestly. And we need to do everything we can to be protecting the rights and all the and to support our trans youth as much as we possibly can. And I think that we've got a good start. I'd also like to mention Maureen Gray's youth shelter here in Scranton, down on Wyoming Avenue, a fantastic resource for the city of Scranton. And I want to applaud you all for hanging in there with us today. Thanks so very much.
Thank you so much, Peter. Our next speaker today is Kristen Volkow. Kristen is the political and advocacy organizer for Act Together Northeast Pennsylvania. She also serves on the board of one of our states and chairs the Ops Communications Work Network group. As a facilitator for the Hub for Progress, let me do that again. As a facilitator for the Hub of Progress, her primary focus is on messaging, development, and advocacy training. She is also an active member of our Revolution PA, where she is involved in member engagement, outreach and advocacy, event planning, and issue campaigns. In 2019 and 2020, she served as the campaign manager for Michelle Siegel, Democratic candidate for Pennsylvania State Senate in SD 27. In 2021, she was the director of communications for Mark Pinsley for PA Senate and served as volunteer staffer for Laura Quick for PA Senate. In late summer of 2021, Kristen also volunteered with Mary Ann Velez for Luzerne County Council. Let's all give a warm welcome to Kristen.
Hi, everyone, and thank you. Thank you for coming out here and hanging out in the rain on a kind of cold spring morning. You guys are troopers. And before I started, I wanted to also thank Janelle and Drea for inviting back together to work on this event. It's been a pleasure to work with you guys on this rally. It really has. Just to give you a little background, Act Together is an indivisible group, and we are partners. that. We're a partner at the America Votes Table, so we do a lot of grassroots advocacy work here in. I'm going to try to fight Mike here. I've been thinking a lot about what I wanted to say today, and I keep coming back to the idea that change is not linear. We often want it to be, but the reality is that it's not. I grew up in a small town of about 5,600 people, and I had a friend as a child who was gender non-binary and also considered himself sexually fluid. And when he told his parents that, they told him he had to leave the house. In the middle of the night at like 9 or 10 o'clock, he had to pack up what he could carry. He had to leave the only house that he ever knew. And the people who were supposed to love him unconditionally and walk out in the cold and the dark. But you flash forward a decade, and in the same little town, we elected to our borough council one of the youngest people ever elected in the state, and also one of the first transgender borough council members in the state of Pennsylvania. So that gives me hope. That gives me hope that things can change. And, you know, small towns do not have to mean small minds. But I'm also here today because I wanted to read some statements from our elected officials. The first being from Congressman Matt Cartwright, who is the representative for the 8th Congressional District, which includes Scranton. And he sent his apologies and regrets that he couldn't be here today. He had an event in Monroe County. But he sent a statement to us, which reads, "Everyone has a right to be themselves and to have a rich, full life in their communities. No one should be discriminated against based on how they express their identity. I am proud to be an ally, proud to stand up for protecting and advancing the rights of the LGBTQ community. You are seen, you are heard, you can depend on me to continue fighting for civil rights and to keep moving us toward greater safety and equality. And to those of you at the rally and who speak out for trans rights, thank you for your courage and advocacy. We can look forward to a better, safer, kinder world because of you." Congressman Matt Cartwright. The next statement that I have to read is from State Representative Kyle Mullins. Representative Mullins was elected to the Pennsylvania House of Representatives in 2018, and he represents the 112th Legislative District in Lackawanna County. Again, Representative Mullins sent his regards and his apologies that he wasn't able to make the event. He is out of town this weekend. But he said, "My greetings and sincere thanks for being here today and for standing in solidarity with our transgender friends and family. I'm sad that a prior obligation has me out of town and unable to be there today, but it's important that you know I will always be there. I will always be there for you as an ally, as a friend, and as a defender of our collective right to be, to identify, to love, and to live freely and without judgment or fear. I do this as a public service responsibility of mine, but I also take it personally. Having transgender and others I love identifying as LGBTQ. Since you're here today, I know you take it personally too. With love and respect, Kyle Mullins, State Representative, he, him, his." All right. My next The next statement that I have is from our lovely mayor of Scranton, Paige Cognetti. Paige Cognetti was also at an event today, but she sent us a lovely statement, and she has also asked the city to put it on cardstock for the coalition and for Janelle and Deus, so that you guys will have it, and we'll get you to you so you can frame it and have it as a keepsake. Paige has been a wonderful mayor and steward for the city of Scranton. She was first sworn in January of 2020, and she was just recently reelected. So, yay, Paige. Yay. It says, good morning, all. It is my honor to welcome you here today in recognition of the NEPA Trans Youth Coalition. While I'm unable to be there today in person, please know that I am with you in spirit. As mayor, it is my duty to strive to ensure that all residents of Scranton have the opportunity to find their true selves. That is why I am proud to offer my support to the NEPA Trans Youth Coalition as you work to provide support for young people who may be facing adversity. Thank you all for being here today. I truly wish that I could be there with all of you. We have one more. The last statement that I have is from one of our borough council members, Jessica Rothschild. Jessica Rothschild is also one of the first openly gay or LGBTQ members to serve on Scranton Borough Council. Jessica really wanted to be here today. When I talked to her Thursday, she was really bummed out that she couldn't make it, but she is actually traveling to be at a wedding of friends this weekend. So we wish her well because they're traveling with a little one for the first time. And we hope she has a lot of fun. So I wanted to read her statement as well. I regret not being able to be at today's I regret. Can you hear me? I regret not being able to attend today's event as I am out of town. I wanted to be able to send support to encouragement and support as an openly gay elected official. These issues are near and dear to my heart. It pains me that transgender rights are under attack in the state of Pennsylvania, and we must do everything we can to advocate for the trans community. Locally, I've worked with my fellow council members to lead the successful passing of a conversion therapy ban. This deters mental health professionals treating minors in Scranton from using this harmful practice. This type of legislation also needs to be passed statewide. We need to protect our community, especially the most vulnerable, like trans women of color, who face the highest amounts of violence and discrimination. One of the best ways to do this is by getting more transgender people into public office. It's easier to make change when we have a seat at the table. I will do everything I can to help. Until then, keep up the good fight.
Thank you, Krista. Can everybody hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. The next speaker is Tom Charles. Tom Charles is a local political activist and a secretary for the Susquehanna County Democratic Committee and an ally for the LGBTQ community. Give Tom a warm welcome.
I won't speak long. I don't have a lot to say. I wasn't supposed to be speaking today. I had invited a friend of mine to speak today, a friend who I have known for over 35 years when we went to preschool together. Her youngest is a member of the trans community who faces the discrimination and bullying that has been talked about today. We went to a high school, in this, as does the youngest, Jack to testify. Certain windows you look out, you can see cows. This is not just a urban issue. This does not just exist in Pittsburgh and Philadelphia, New York, big cities. This is everywhere. And I'm proud to stand by each and every one of you and fight for all of your rights.
Thank you so much, Tom. Our next speaker is Kirsten Rivera. Kirsten is a licensed therapist with a master's degree in school counseling and guidance services, who has a decade of experience supporting the mental health of Northeast PA's LGBTQ+ community. As a longtime ally and advocate, Kristen knows firsthand the positive, life-changing effects that access to mental health support can have in the lives of queer people. Everybody give a warm welcome to Kristen. Kirsten.
Hi, everyone. Thank you so much for having me here.
Unravel. All right.
So my name is Kirsten Rivera, and I'm a licensed counselor. I work at Wayne Memorial Behavioral Health in Honesdale, and I'm very happy to work there because we are a strong support and prideful place for the LGBT community, and we have several counselors that work specifically, and we just try and bring awareness and support because that's so necessary, especially in rural Pennsylvania. I've been an advocate and ally for the LGBTQ population for over 20 years, and in the past few years, I've been focusing on learning about transgender and non-binary individuals, circumstances, and issues, and how I can best support and be a safe and affirming counselor to all my transgender, non-binary clients. I feel really honored and privileged that I've been able to be a safe person for many youth and young adults to come out to, and I could meet them with affirmation, and they just felt really supported, and that was like, that's an honor for me. I feel privileged that they allowed me to have that. Okay, so I don't have all the facts, the statistics that everyone else did, but I do have some facts. Transgender and gender non-binary teens and kids are more likely to a lot of times be kicked out of their house and be homeless, live on the street, attempt suicide, some succeed with that. Some engage, a lot have to engage in sex trafficking and prostitution to support themselves, substance use and abuse, and a lot of people actually have to engage in, can't have access to hormones to become who they need to be, their true gender, and they have to go to the streets and get unsafe things and medicine because they can't get access to safe medical intervention. A lot also have significant mental health issues, including anxiety and depression. And they can't always get affirmative and supportive care in the mental health field where they're supposed to be able to go for support. The reasons for all these risk factors and gender aren't the gender identity issues, but the lack of support from many families, schools, mental health agencies, classmates, doctors, friends, church, and in many cases, outright discrimination, mental, emotional, and sometimes physical and sexual abuse. This is not okay, and we need to change it. We need to do better for our kids. It is so vital and important for teens and young people to have support and guidance and a safe place to be themselves. I strive to be this to all people in my position as a counselor, And if we all come together, we can create a climate of love, acceptance, and support for our transgender youth and non-binary children. We need to be the change that we want to see in the world and in Pennsylvania, and I'm honored to be part of today's rally. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Kirsten. Our next speaker is Lilia Weber. Lilia Weber is a software engineer, a wife, a parent, and step-parent, a lover of nature, and an active person of faith. She identifies as transgender and uses the pronouns she, her, hers. Lilia is active in the LGBTQ community in Southeast Pennsylvania area, as well as in the global corporate world. She is on the board of Eastern Pennsylvania Trans Equality Project and currently serving as a member of her company's Diversity, Equity, and Inclusion Council, as well as a co-founder and leader in her company's Pride Employee Resource Group. Please welcome Lilia.
Don't go running off.
I will run off. I might run off.
Good afternoon, everyone. I hope everyone's doing okay in the campus here. And hello, all you beautiful people. My name is Lily Weber, and as Janelle said, my pronouns are she, her, hers, and I'm a trans woman. And I won't go through that little bio segment that Janelle read through. But that is part of my experience, and even my experience in the corporate world has brought me here. So I'm considered a late bloomer, as I having transitioned from my assigned at birth gender to later in life presenting in the gender that is true to my soul. Because of that later transition, I didn't have a chance to compete in sports in my high school years as my identified gender, and I didn't have that experience. But I wanted you to know where, between my experience as that and where I fit into this movement. The one bill that really rubs against me is the Pennsylvania House Bill number 972. I hope by now you know what this is about and why do. But the thing is, we have all these bills across many states right now, and why is that? Bills against trans kids in sports, and the more diabolical are the ones making it a felony to give scientifically proven medical care to trans and gender expansive kids. All in all, this is like over 100 bills in something like 38 states right now. That is over 3/4 of the country with bills in process or passed targeting trans youth. But Pennsylvania has this one, HB 972, and these bills are being pushed hard. And 10 anti-trans youth and sports bills have already been passed in other states, and 2 anti-trans anti-medical care bills have also already passed. And these states include Alabama, Arkansas, Florida, Idaho, Mississippi, Montana, South Dakota, Tennessee, Texas, and West Virginia. So this is real. This isn't hyperbole. If states would have moved this fast on real issues, we wouldn't be still dealing with COVID, and we probably wouldn't be having an epidemic of school shootings. These bills are being generated by the likes of the Family Research Council, the Alliance for Defending Freedom, and the Liberty Council. All 3 of these groups are designated as extremist hate groups by the Southern Poverty Law Center. And you, as Day mentioned earlier, you can, if you line these state bills up, you can almost see them, in a shadow box, and the words are all the same. So they're copies of each other from state to state. In Pennsylvania today, 972 is currently sitting in the Education Committee, and this is the so-called Protect Women's Sports Act in the Pennsylvania House. And it is not written to protect. It is written to fan the flames of fear and target transgender girls and women. This is all happening in the year that is recorded the largest number of women murdered who identified or were perceived as transgender, non-binary, or gender expansive. So some proponents of this discriminatory and hateful bill say this bill is common sense. What would be common sense would be to ban assault weapons and target background and tighten target background check for buying a firearm. That is going to actually protect youth instead of targeting trans student athletes. Boys and girls participating in sports builds character, teamwork, and leadership in youth. This is true for cis boys and cis girls, as well as trans and gender expansive kids. This bill is completely discriminatory and has no place in Pennsylvania law or any state law for that matter. Some of the respective sports associations are addressing criteria for trans athletes to compete, but none of them ever suggest an outright ban. This bill is legislation looking for a problem where there isn't a problem. In the more than 8 years since the California Interscholastic Federation began allowing high school students to high school athletes to compete in the gender in which they identify, regardless of which they were assigned at birth, there has not been a single case in which a trans female athlete has been dominant enough to stir protest. The NCAA says they won't be a part of any state with anti-trans discrimination laws. They state the NCAA Board of Governors firmly and unequivocally supports the opportunity for transgender student athletes to compete in college sports. This commitment is grounded in our values of inclusion and fair competition. So, trying to pass this discriminatory law means reduced income for venues and vendors for sports proceeds. That is plain stupid. And we have seen when states go toe-to-toe with the NCAA, they lose business and revenue. Remember North Carolina in 2016? In closing, I'd like to borrow some words and kind of grow on Loretta Lynch when she spoke at the press conference announcing the complaint against the state of North Carolina to stop discrimination against transgender individuals. To our trans and gender expansive students, young and older, I see you, I hear you, we see you, we hear you. And we are here to fight for your right to a full education that includes sports, and we will keep fighting. You have done nothing wrong. You are living your truth and authentic lives, and it scares the hell out of them. Don't let them smother your spark. We will win the fight because the moral arc of the universe continues to bend to truth and justice. Thank you.
Thank you, Lilia. And yes, Lilia said we will win. And yes, we will win.
Yes.
Our final speaker is Parker Webb. Parker Webb is president and founding member of Lidditz Chooses Love, a nonprofit organization dedicated to providing support and resources to Lancaster County's transgender and queer community. Together, they brought the town of Lidditz their first Pride event, June 26, 2021. Please welcome Parker.
Again, thank you all for coming out. I'm going to skip the technical difficulties because I have a really loud voice. Everybody's cool with that, right? Awesome. Okay, so thank you all so much for coming out today. Thank you for having this, Janelle and Day, so much. So we've gone over a lot of what I would have already gone over. So let's talk solution. We started Lidditz Chooses Love as a solution to a problem that we were having with discrimination in our town. Somebody desecrated a pride flag multiple times. So we had a pride event to show our physical response to that with love. We had over 200 people show up to that pride event, and it was also a listening event. But I had more recently moved from Philly, so I don't know the problems that we had in Lancaster, and boy, do we have problems. So, hearing that we had no resources, that there was no place for our people to go, we created an organization after that first pride. So we are about to open our center December 15th in Penryn. The village right up the road from Lidditz. So that's our solution, and we're working on that. And So what can you do? I know most of us don't have the time to volunteer our time to start a nonprofit. That's just a position I happen to be in. So what can you do? Maybe support your GSA in the school. They always need supported, and even just writing to your school board saying that you support this club if you don't have one, that you want to see one in your school. Doesn't matter if you have kids in that school. It matters that you live in the district. I write to my school district, even though my nieces and nephews are going to go over to the school district the next town over. So that's one thing you can do. Volunteer for your local organizations. They always need volunteers. And it shows your support in a physical way. It's really nice to say, yes, we support LGBTQ plus people. We do need to hear that. But seeing the actions, that's what really makes the difference. So think about those things that you can do, even if they're just little things like writing the school board. That takes 10 minutes. Send that email. Do the little things. Every action makes a difference. And definitely talk to everybody here about the movements that they're making. The political movements need to happen. We really, really need to squash this whole right movement that is making laws against just being a trans youth. The bullying has gone. It's so sad that I see not only the bullying that I faced over 20 years ago, but now that bullying is coming from people in a political position of power. So, write your Congress people. Vote. Please vote and vote these people out. Thank you.
Thank you, Parker. November is Transgender Awareness Month. And today, November the 13th, is the beginning of Transgender Awareness Week. And Transgender Awareness Week leads up to the day of November 20th, which is Transgender Day of Remembrance. Transgender Day of Remembrance is a day that we remember all of our trans siblings that lost their lives due to violence. To my knowledge, as of right now, the number is 45. That's terrible and it needs to stop. So I want to introduce Dave Pope. Dave's going to tell you a little bit about Trans Day of Remembrance, and then we're going to have a couple people read the names of those that were their lives that were lost. Thank you.
All right, everyone, we are wrapping up. I'm going to talk loudly to everyone. I just have a couple things to say. Please stay focused for 2 more minutes. Before you head out today, I want to get every one of you to sign this justice pledge that says that you're going to, when you go into the ballot box, think about LGBTQ rights in who you're voting for, okay? This also gives us your email so that we can keep you posted about our ongoing campaign. This isn't just one rally. We're going to be doing this all across the state. We're going to be back in Scranton. We're going to be doing this until we win the battle, okay? So I want to thank each and every one of you before you leave. The other last thing before we get into talking about Trans Day of Remembrance is a few of us, after we wrap up, might get some, coffee, whatever, warm up in a diner nearby. Zero pressure to join us. If you want to, open invitation, okay? So thank you for hanging in for this rally. This has been an amazing turnout for how serious of a day it is. It's a really important day. We have just a couple more moments to share with you all. And the first is a sobering moment because it is about to be Trans Day of Remembrance. And this year, 2021, has already seen at least 45 trans or gender non-conforming people fatally shot or killed by other violent means. So we say at least because a lot of the time murders in our community go underreported. In previous years, the majority of these people have been Black and Latinx transgender women because there's an intersection of racism and transphobia that is hurting our communities right now. These victims, like all of us, were loving partners, parents, family members. They were people's kids and friends. They worked, they went to school, they attended houses of worship. They were real people. and they didn't deserve to have their lives taken from them. So today we're going to mourn those we've lost in 2021. A few of my friends up here are going to list their names so that we can all really like remember them and mourn them together, okay?
Miss Coco, August 7th, 2020. Pooh Johnson, August 23rd. Tisaya Monet.
Brianna Hamilton. Pierre Lacour Cordier, September 30th. Mel Groves, October 11th. Royal Poetical Stars, October 2nd. Zoella Zoe Rose Martinez, August 31st. Serenity Collis, Oliver Ollie Taylor, Thomas Harding, Poe Black, Al Boykin, Adolyn Evans, Kaya Ashton, Shai Vanderpump, Sarah Marie Lewis, Joe Acker, Jesse Hart, Ricky Altamoro, Markeisha Lawrence.
Tiana Alexander, Samuel Edmund Damian Valentin, Bianca Muffin Banks, Dominique Jackson, 50 Bands, Alexis Braxton, China Carrillo, Jeffrey J.J. Bright, Jasmine Kennedy, Natalia Snoop, Ida Santos, Tiffany Thomas, Kerry Washington, Jahara De Alto, Whispering Wind Fair Spirit, Sophia Vasquez, Danica Danny Henson, Jenna Franks, Diamond Kyrie Sanders, Rayana Pardo, Jada Peterson, Dominique Luscious, Remy Fennell, and Tiara Banks.
Thank you to everybody that read those names. Stop and think and pray in your prayers tonight if you're a praying person, for all these people that have perished and for all of our trans adults and kids throughout the United States and the world. This concludes our speaker and segment, and also I would like to thank all the speakers for their heartfelt messages in support of our trans youth and families here in Pennsylvania. Pennsylvanians don't want to be drawn into culture wars. With COVID-19 ravaging our communities and our economy, and so many families facing uncertainty, unemployment, and struggle, we want to say again to the PA legislators, do your job to get us back on track instead of trying to win political points attacking trans kids. From all of us at the PA Coalition for Trans Youth and TAPE, this rally is the first or the second of many, and that they will continue to build momentum and share the message of acceptance and equality across the state in the coming months. We also want to thank all of you who have attended and all those that viewed the rally on live stream for all your support, kindness, and love for all of our trans kids and their families during these rough times of hate, bigotry, and discrimination. Please remember, trans rights are human rights, period. Thank you so much.
Please sign my voter pledge before you leave. Please, please, please. Here it comes.
Also, and I apologize because I didn't let Janelle know ahead of time, if you are a queer person, a person of color, an ally here in Susquehanna, Wayne, or Lackawanna counties, we are trying to put together an actual physical in-person community center up in Forest City at the confluence of all three of those counties. So if you wouldn't mind filling out a survey to help us understand exactly what services you would like, please come see me. And I know it's really cold, so thank you if you do have that time.
How was the drive?